Let's talk numbers, shall we? So, as somebody new to the game development community, I found it really difficult sometimes to get concrete numbers on things, and so I really wanted, when I had created and released a game, which I have, to be quite transparent about some of the numbers. And I don't know if it'll be helpful to somebody else because it's quite specific to my situation, but I'm just going to talk it through, and maybe if you're a game developer or just interested, you'll find it of use. So the game I created is called the Beekeepers Picnic. It's a point-and-click adventure game, quite a cozy kind of mystery game. It's got Sherlock Holmes in it because he's a public domain character and I can do that. And I spent about 2.5 to 3 years creating it during my evenings and weekends. I did basically everything except anything you can hear. So I did not do all the voice acting and the sound design and the music. It wasn't an attempt at a money-making venture. I know when I first began to look into people doing devlogs, some people really concentrate on that aspect of game development because they are trying to build stable careers, and to do that you have to think a lot more about the market than I did. So on the one hand, I wasn't motivated by making money, but I have made choices in my life, in my career, to do jobs which are fulfilling. I do like my day job, but it's not super highly paid, and that's because it gives me the headspace and security to do creative work in my evenings and weekends. And I've maybe sometimes chosen not to, say, go down management pathways or go for promotions that are a bit more intense, because I like having that room in my life for creative work, and I think that would be jeopardized by that. So having the creation of this game validated by some kind of financial compensation, I guess, was a bit important to me. So the Beekeepers Picnic is a very niche game, and I think it appeals to like 3 main groups of people. We have the point-and-click adventure gamers. It's a genre which hasn't been sort of mainstream popular for decades now, but it has a small and passionate audience. However, I think Beekeepers Picnic won't meet all of their needs because it isn't designed to be a fiendish puzzle game with lots of combining objects and pixel hunting and this sort of thing. I designed it to be quite a relaxing, low frustration experience. So that suggests that it will be popular with cozy gamers. And to some extent, it is. But then cozy gamers maybe aren't used to the conventions of point-and-click games, sometimes a bit confused by them. So that's kind of not a perfect fit either. And then last but not least, it's got Sherlock Holmes fans that want to play it. But not all of those are going to be gamers. And I've found that a bit of a mixed blessing. I think using a big, like, public domain character might get more eyes on your work and might generate a little bit of buzz around it. But then you also start getting people with opinions about how you're using that character. And also, like, I couldn't use the term Sherlock Holmes in the title of the game because somebody else holds the trademark for using the name Sherlock Holmes in the title of computer games. So how did I build an audience before release? I'm a little bit hopeless at social media. I know that if I let myself get absorbed by TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, etc., I would never make a game. I would just be sat there scrolling. Or the other way around, I'd get like too wrapped up in making content and trying to get my head around that I would never make a game. Which is annoying because social media is such an obvious way to advertise a game. The biggest social media platform that I was on was Twitter, where I had a lofty 1,000 followers. I was a big deal on Twitter. And that disintegrated during the development of the game. People moved away. I wanted to move away because I was just so fed up with Twitter. I hopped onto Blue Sky, and I haven't got the same level of engagement there yet, but that's sort of an avenue where I've tried to share the game. I did try on Instagram, but like I don't get Instagram, and I don't want to use it enough to get it. I don't know. I get frustrated about the fact that social media is how I have to spread the word to some extent. I did have a few points in my favour. So I've done a number of Kickstarter campaigns before for my comics. I've been creating webcomics online for blah, blah, over a decade, quite a long time. So from that, I had a small but fairly devoted core of people who are willing to contribute financially to my work. And I've built that over many years. The Kickstarter itself, like running a Kickstarter, I found actually got eyes on the game. There were 403 backers in the end that raised about £11,000, which, isn't huge compared to some Kickstarters, but that was massive for me. And it was really important for me because it let me pay the composer and the voice actors. And it did bring a lot of wish lists to the project. Interestingly, in some ways I feel that the Kickstarter campaign spread more widely than the actual game launch, but not necessarily in a good way. It kind of got picked up by Reddit people and gaming forums and a lot of people who were like, a cozy game with blah, 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 made by woman. So yeah, it didn't get picked up, I think, in those venues by people who were interested in buying it, more about people who were interested in bashing it. So I think that did maybe affect how I shared the game going forwards, and I was maybe a little bit more cagey about sharing it to audiences who were going to promote it and embrace it. Because frankly, if I'm sharing it in a hostile environment, I might as well just not. Like, it's not helping to do that. So that taught me something. Other places that I kind of gained attention through was Steam Next Fest. I did that. You're allowed to do Steam Next Fest once per game. I did it during the Kickstarter, sort of like halfway through. That seemed like a good idea at the time. I can't go back now and work out if it was a good idea, but, that helped. Another place where I got a lot of traction was, I'm almost embarrassed to say it, in the year of our Lord 2025, Tumblr. It's a Sherlock Holmes game. Of course, Tumblr likes it. I was into Tumblr back in the day, and I think when Twitter kind of went crazy, I went back to Tumblr, and I found that it's still chugging along, and I really like it. I think we lost something when we turned our backs on Tumblr. If you haven't been there in a while, I suggest checking it out again, because the user base has matured, and it's, I just think, a really neat place. I like how you can make text and video posts. They can be quite long and complex. The queue feature is brilliant in Tumblr. You can just say, please release one from my queue per day, and then you can create this queue, this like bank of things to post, and you don't have to think about it again. Other social media platforms I've come across have scheduling capabilities, but they're quite picky about when you release. Whereas Tumblr, it's quite chill. You can just be like, yeah, I'll add that to my bank of stuff to release. So through Tumblr, I was able to release a quite steady stream of content to do with the development of the game. So yeah, I had about 4,000 followers there. And where else? I mean, I would have liked to have contacted the mainstream gaming press ahead of release, or like streamers. I found it a bit difficult to know how to do that. I found that big press sites, they don't make their contact details very open. They don't really want a bunch of indie gamers, like hundreds of them, flooding their inbox saying, please review my game. They sort of latch onto things that are already gaining traction. So it's a bit of a catch-22, like, you get traction from being in the mainstream gaming press, but you can only be in the mainstream gaming press if you're gaining traction situation. And with streamers, I think maybe I could have pushed that more. I was a bit caught up in getting the game finished ready for launch, and maybe a rookie mistake that I didn't invest in that. But as I'll get to later, plenty of streamers found the game after release. So I'm going to talk a little bit about pricing. So the pricing for the game it's about £12 or about $15 US. It moves around a little bit with regional pricing, which is supposed to adjust it for different economies, in theory. I chose that because it was in line with other point-and-click adventure games. It felt... it's stupid, really, because it's not that much money, but it felt like a lot, because I think a lot of indie games are fairly underpriced. I was worried about people complaining about the length, because there's this real relationship with games between price and length that I feel like you don't maybe get in other media. I tried to be really transparent about the length of the game, hoping that would mitigate anyone being upset or kind of leaving negative reviews because they didn't feel the price was worth it. So far, only one person that I know of has complained to me about the price, so there you go. I'm inviting you into this world that I've crafted over years for 4 to 6 hours. It's got a professional voice cast, so it's like a 4 to 6 hour audio drama. There's actually 3,000 lines of voiced dialogue, which I think is, a quality thing. And these are such good actors as well. So, I didn't want to underprice that for myself and for the gaming community as a whole. I think it's important not to underprice. I think the nicheness of the game sort of feeds into that as well. I'm not going to sell lots and lots and lots of endless copies by dropping the price super low. And I also feel that I got quite strong reviews because the people who bought the game were really invested in it and had looked into the length and read up on it before buying. So it was almost like a way of cutting down in the first few months on the people who are maybe just going to buy it and not really be into it and then leave a negative review. I'm going to be interested to see how the game going on sale in the future ends up maybe lowering the positivity of the reviews. Right now they're really positive. They're like 97% positive. So let's hope it does remain that way, but I am bracing myself for that to drop as the price lowers during sales. I launched with about 6,000 wish lists on Steam. And I'd heard that this was kind of around the magic number required to get onto new and trending, which is sort of important for getting a bit of a boost. But I have to say I didn't. Steam does start promoting your game a little bit more before launch for a few weeks, and I did see a bit of a boost from that. I think maybe the reason I didn't get onto new and trending is that although I had a fair number of wish lists, it just depends like who else is releasing around that time. Do they have more? And I also wonder if some of those wish lists were kind of a bit stale, like they'd been around a while. I'd had a slow and steady increase in wish lists rather than getting lots all towards the launch. That might have made an impact. In terms of sales, I got 518 on launch day. And remember that that's in addition to the 400 odd people who'd already bought the game. The next few days, it did kind of decrease because we had that sudden burst of people who were anxiously waiting for the release, the sort of true super fans. The next few days, week, was about maybe 100 odd people a day. So by the first week, I'm over 1,000 people having bought the game, which I was pretty chuffed about. That's on Steam. The game also released on itch, but like only about 100 people have ever bought it on there full stop, so I'm kind of just going to ignore it for my numbers. I feel like the main thing I use that for is I like to release community copies on there for people who can't afford the game. You might think I'm a bit of a softie for that, but I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't want anyone to be barred from playing this thing that I've worked on because of finances, So after that, it settled into maybe like 10 to 20 people buying the game per day. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. When it comes to like continued interest building and sort of continuing to promote and support the game, I found that a lot of people got in touch with me wanting keys. And these were like Steam curators. I get about 5 of these every single day, and I find it really, really overwhelming. Yeah, so I've kind of started to lean away from giving people keys if they're just Steam curators, unless they maybe write me an email that makes it very clear that they specifically know about my game and are interested in it, and it seems to vibe very much with their curation page. I don't know who looks at these curation pages. I don't know. I've really loved the engagement of Twitch streamers in the game. There's been quite a few of those. They're lovely to watch. I really love watching them. It's a real treat. I love reading all the comments. I can't say that I've particularly found that like there's a peak in sales after any of the Twitch streamers doing it. I think maybe with a game like mine that's very story based, if the Twitch streamer spends like 4 hours doing it, like streaming the game, they've probably got through the story. And although there are different endings, different choices, and I find that the streamers maybe take things quite rapidly and don't find sort of half the things maybe that there are to do, their viewers possibly feel like they've already experienced the game. And so they're not going to go out and buy it. And for the record, I don't mind this. It's not a complaint against the streamers. I want people to enjoy the game and the story, and I think that they are a positive part of the gaming community, so it's fine. I'm just aware that maybe for a different kind of game, they might result in more sales than for my game. The two things that did make a bit of an impact on post-launch sales were two bits of kind of press, I guess. The first was that the game was featured, and this is just bananas, like I still can't quite get my head around this. But Kotaku, the gaming website, listed it amongst their top games of 2025 so far, which was wild because it was next to all these, really big mainstream AAA releases and then my ridiculous thing. Funnily enough, that didn't actually result in many sales. A little blip of sales, little few extras, but it resulted in a lot of wish lists. And I think that's because the average Kotaku reader isn't going to be like, oh, a cozy point-and-click adventure game starring a retired Sherlock Holmes. That's not what they were looking at that website for. But maybe a fair number of them are like, not usually my thing, but I'll stick it on my wish list, and if it goes on sale, maybe I'll get it. I was more excited just to get the mainstream recognition. It was paired with, that sort of list was paired with a really lovely review that meant a lot to me. And one of the things it says is, I don't know how this got made and like how it slipped through the radar and hasn't been covered by mainstream press. And I was like, yeah, I know, but how was I meant to have done that? I still don't know. The other big boost, which was it resulted in more sales and a lot of wish lists, was a cozy gaming TikToker. And it was kind of a lasting boost as well. I think after that TikTok got free, that like 10 to 20 sales a day changed to 20 to 30 a day. It made me think, should I have tried getting on TikTok? But I think I'm too millennial for TikTok, I'm sorry. So to bring things to the present, sure enough, the summer sale has seen a big boost in sales. I'm going to be interested to see where things go from there. As a bit of a wrap-up, so I've sold about 3,000 copies in the first 3 months. That's probably not phenomenal by game standards, like that probably is hobbyist numbers, but I'm very, very happy with it. While Steam takes a cut and the taxman takes a cut, it has been nice to have that extra money coming in. So Steam in 2022 reported that more than 90% of games on the platform sold fewer than 5,000 copies in their first year. I think it would be really cool to beat that, to get over 5,000. I think since I already have 3,000, that's likely, but we'll see. And in the future, I'm planning to take the game to festivals, submit it to awards, and just have a bit of fun with the fact that I have a game out. One of the things I think any prospective game developers should know is that the job doesn't end once you release. It's very much still been taking up hours of my time since release. I have to put aside time in my evenings to deal with it. But it's been a really cool experience. People have been asking when I'll make another game, and I don't know yet because I'm still really in the thick of dealing with this one. But, I hope there will be another one because it's been a really fun time. If you're interested in more of my process of developing the game, I did do a bit of a devlog, and of course I'm going to be like, buy it on Steam, The Beekeepers Picnic, available now. Okay.